This video is going to look at the social learning explanation for gender development. So your specification just states the social learning theory. There's no keywords, anything that you have to include. So when you're answering an essay question, you can include all these points from this video. Or when you're answering a shorter question, you can pick which parts and which key terms you want to include, because none of them are specifically named on the specification. So social learning theory states that all behaviours, including gender, is learned from observing others. And basically this theory is all about nurture shapes gender development. Nature, remember, is all your biology. Nurture is learning from others and your environment. So this states that nurture shapes your gender development. And often in social learning theory we refer to significant others. And by that we mean parents, peers, teachers, the media, people that have a significant impact on your life. One explanation of the social learning theory is that we learn gender development through direct reinforcement. And behaviours are more likely to be reinforced for behaviour that is gender appropriate. So we're more likely to be rewarded for behaviour that is gender appropriate. So a boy plays football, he'll get rewarded and praised for that behaviour. Okay, any boy doing rough and tumble play, physical activity, will be rewarded because that's what boys should do. And we're more likely to be punished for gender inappropriate behaviour. So a boy who's very passive or plays with dolls is far more likely to be punished. And this is direct reinforcement because it's directed towards the child that it's happened to. The child done the behaviour and is reinforced or punished for their own gender behaviour. And what happens with gender behaviour is we get something called differential reinforcement. And this means that we get different reinforcement for boys and for girls. Different genders are encouraged to show different behaviours. Boys, rough and tumble play, girls to be nice and gentle and passive. So those reinforced behaviours will always get repeated. If we praise them, they get repeated. And any punished behaviours won't be repeated. The child will learn not to do that behaviour again. And it's through this reinforcement that children start to learn their own gender identity. Children also learn about gender development and gender identity through indirect or vicarious reinforcement. And this is linked to observing the consequences of other people's behaviour. If they see other people are rewarded for their behaviour, they're more likely to imitate it. So, for example, little girl hears her mum being complimented for wearing makeup and a pretty dress. The girl will then try and copy this by dressing nicely, wearing makeup when she's able to do it. Whereas a little boy who sees a classmate, another boy, being called a sissy for feminine behaviour, he learns not to copy that behaviour. So if we see others being rewarded, we imitate it. If we're seeing others being punished for gender-specific behaviours, we learn to avoid that type of behaviour. So, identification refers to the idea that we're more likely to copy and imitate those that we can identify with. And we usually identify with people we consider to be role models. So our parents, peers, teachers. Role models are usually people who are high status to us, we see them as attractive, someone we want to live up to and be like, and often the same sex of the child. So the more we identify with someone, the more likely we are to imitate their behaviours. And there's really two types of modelling that go on with gender behaviour. Modelling could refer to someone demonstrating a behaviour. For example, a mother demonstrates stereotypical cleaning behaviour. As the mother goes around cleaning the house, she's modelling a behaviour for her daughter to observe. But we also get modelling when the little girl copies her mother by setting a table or feeding her doll with a bottle. She's modelling the behaviour she has witnessed. So modelling really comes in two terms: demonstrating a behaviour or copying the behaviour. Right, back in your AS when we looked at social learning theory, we talked about mediational processes: attention, retention, motor reproduction and motivation. We're going to have a quick look about how this and these mediational processes can affect gender development. And we're going to do it through a quick example of a boy playing football. So, First of all, he pays attention. The little boy watches his favourite footballer in the Premier League and he wants to emulate him. He's paid attention to this person and he starts to notice, right, I'm a boy, this is a man, I want to be like this person. He then remembered all the different skills that he did on the pitch and tries to reproduce these. He's retained that information. Then he's got to be motivated in order to be like his hero. He's got to want to emulate that person and be motivated in order to do it. And finally, motor reproduction. Is he actually physically capable of copying those skills? So again, the child will go through these mediational processes in understanding his own gender identity. We're now going to have a look at the AO3 for the social learning theory of gender development. So there is some supporting evidence for this. We've already looked at the Smith and Lloyd study before in a previous video, where mothers were observed playing with an infant who was either presented to them as a boy or as a girl in terms of clothing. So you could have a little baby boy, dress him up as a girl, present it to a mother. And what they found was that the mother selected gender-appropriate toys for those children. And they also showed increased motor activity when the child was presented as a boy. So what does it tell us? Well, it shows us that gender-appropriate behaviour is stamped in from an early age by our parents. Parents will try and give you certain toys, act with you in certain ways, reward you in certain ways to develop your gender identity. Another study to support it was Perry and Bussey's study. And what they did was they showed a film clip to children aged between 8 and 9. And in the film clip, they saw boys or girls selecting either an apple or a pear. And the whole point of having an apple or a pear was that these are gender neutral items. Could have been anything. Okay. And later, when the children were given a choice of picking an apple or picking a pear, the boys selected the fruit they saw boys in the video pick. The girls selected fruit that they saw the girls in the video select. So this shows us that social learning occurs from our peers and that we learn vicariously through others. Okay, it might be the fact that the boys didn't want to be punished by the other boys by picking the girl fruit, and the girls didn't want to be punished by other girls for picking the boys' fruit like they saw in the video. But it shows us that we learn from our peers. We learn through this vicarious reinforcement. And that children model behaviours, okay, that is observed from other models. So children will repeat behaviours that they see their similar gender doing. Okay, so if they see a boy doing something, they are more likely to copy that behaviour than they are something a girl does. So a major limitation of this theory is it is a reductionist theory. Again, it ignores that role of biology. It ignores the role of testosterone. It ignores the masculinization of the brain. That case study we learned previously about David Rimmer shows the power of biology. You cannot socialize a child to be masculine or feminine. Okay, it doesn't work that way. It ignores the role of biology and only focuses on social learning. However, this theory does have one major strength. It can explain the changing gender roles in Western society. Back in the 1950s, it was very clear cut. This is what men do, this is what women do. But nowadays, it's far less clear cut about what is stereotypically masculine, what's stereotypically feminine. And the social learning theory can probably explain this shift in norms about what we expect men and women to do. If you think about it now, most behaviours can be seen, and most jobs can be seen as either masculine or feminine. Okay, and at the same time, there's been no change in people's biology. So biology can't explain this particular change in behaviour, change in attitudes. So maybe it could be better explained by the social learning theory. One major limitation of these studies is that it was conducted in the West. Okay, all the studies support it are Western, so can we generalise it? If we were to conduct it in other cultures, would we get the same results? So again, this questions the validity of the theory. Remember, if the study supporting it lack validity, the theory also lacks validity.